Hey everybody, George Moorhead, Bentley Properties. How are you doing? So today we're going to kind of button up the home inspection and dealing with the inside. Now, the best part about this is that we had some great questions and we're going to go over those in a minute. But again, my name is George Moorhead, Bentley Properties. I've been practicing for about 26 years, closed over 2,000 plus different transactions, been a builder for a lot of years since 1992, still build. And so we've got a little bit of experience when it comes to inspections and to give some advice and basically how best to look at a home from the outside and then going inside. All right, so with that, hit your little wow button for me. Let me know that you can hear us. And then, of course, you know, the little heart, let us know that you like what you're hearing, and ask some questions if there's something that I say, whether now or later. If you have any, let us know. We'll answer them. If we need to give you a recommendation, since we do have a lot of vetted vendors that you have access to. Just let us know what you need and we'll just fire those off to you. We typically refer out about 15 different vendors every single week. It's actually our goal. And when we exceed that, well, we have a little happy party. But let us know what you need and we'll go from there. In fact, just on the way in, Lynn texted me saying, hey, George, you know, gosh, we love our house. We've been here for 3 years, but it's time to paint. And can you send out your designer and your couple of painters that we can interview and do that? So got that done. She's got those, and they'll be giving a painter a call. Let us know what you need, okay? We're always here for you, no strings attached, and this way you get good quality vendors to work with. All right, so we had two questions that came up that I think were kind of valuable. They came up from a week ago's live session and this last week. So let's get the more technical one out of the way. All right. They said, George, you had mentioned there's a difference between a manufactured home and a modular home, but they look the same. And I smiled and I said, well, actually, a modular home is built to the building code, the IRC. It's built to the building code. It's just built off-site. It's trailered in. They can be single-story. They can be two-story. You know, they're just built in a controlled environment versus stick-built on site. And you can add on to them, and you can do a lot of different things, unlike a manufactured home. Now, a manufactured home, technically, even though a lot of them today are built to a much better standard, some of you might be thinking, you know, like the old trailers, you know, you had that 1.5 inch wall, you know, and they look like a trailer, but just a little bit wider. They're built to look and appear more like single-family homes, but they're not. In fact, you cannot even attach something to them. Like if you have a deck or a porch, so if you have your wall, you actually have to, it has to be self-supporting. It cannot be physically attached to a manufactured home. They have to be separate. And in with that, a manufactured home has a labor and industries, or what we call a little LNI red tag. It's a certification plate on them. And that many times is the telltale giveaway. Some will put them on foundations. Most of them, they just put that skirting down. They still have the axles on them. Sometimes they still leave the tires on them, hook up to them, and away you go, right? So that's really the difference between a manufactured and a modular home. And it is a big difference. There's a number of different manufacturers for both in this area and outside of this area. If you need more information about that, let us know. We can guide you in the right direction. All right, so second question was a great question. They're like, George, you've mentioned this GFCI a couple of different times now. What the heck is a GFCI? A ground fault circuit interrupt. Oh, that's one, right? And you can always tell because it's always got these red and black. Sometimes they're white and white, right? And like, is this one on it? Nope. But some of them, they have like a little doodah up here, little LED light, right? And if it's, and you have to make sure you know which one. Some, the light are on when it's active. Some, the light come on when they've tripped. The easiest way to know, the ones that trip, they have a little red light. The ones that are active, it's a little green light. So, you know, green light go, red light stop. Okay, so then they said, okay, now you talked about this device that tests these things. And I'm like, yeah, it's one of these. And the really cool part is, okay, now let's see if I can get that up there. You can see that it has the different depending on which light, right? So this is hard to do backwards, right? You got that light, and that light. And depending on how they line up, it tells you if they are lined up correctly. If the neutral wire and the ground wire and the power wire are wired correctly, boop, these two lights come on, and that's a winner chicken dinner. Then they have a little button on them, okay? And that's why the third one, and it trips the GFCI. Now, here's the really cool thing. Now, dudes, listen up. Here's really fun. Okay. Some of you may have a daughter or a wife that will be in the bathroom for hours, and you only need 3 minutes. So here's what you do. You make sure that the GFCI for their bathroom is in another room, right? Because all the bathrooms are linked, right? Or down to the kitchen, right? And then you take your little device when they're in there and you need your 3 minutes, and you plug it in and you trip it. And then they're like, oh, my hair dryer and my curling iron, nothing is working. And of course they yell out, dad, dad, or husband, or whoever you might be, right? And the really cool thing is you can go in, get your 3 minutes of whatever you need to get done so you can get the heck out of there, and then reset it. And then that raises you from caveman to handyman. So you've raised your status and you're Mr. Fix-It. So there you go. Just don't let her know you're doing it. Be careful how many times you do it, but that is a great way to get your free time in the bathroom because they're going to figure they need to go someplace else. Isn't that brilliant? Okay, I love it. All right, so the next device that people are asking about is this, and this little contraption is awesome. I don't have any electrical outlet here, but the best part is that this, everybody see that? What it does is when you actually get this thing near power, okay, it makes a beep, beep, beep noise. And the best part is that if you are curious if, something is powered, you're going to go work on it, you're going to do anything with, the power, you can put this up there and it'll go beep, 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 beep if it has power, right? If, however, you go up to it and you're like, gosh, you can't get this lamp to work, can't get the lamp to work, and if you didn't have one of these handy, but you had one of these handy, great way to test. You can see that it's working or when it's not working, and it gives you a good heads up. However, if you're ever going to replace outlets, switches, things like that, go turn off your breaker, okay? Don't do it live. It's always exciting. It adds that element of excitement, right? But I recommend that you actually turn it off, okay? Especially when you're going to be opening up the wall and working with live wires. All right, so with that, let's move on. So last week, I seem to have disappeared. Facebook had a crash and burn session, so I had no idea where it ended until it published. So I'm going to pick up from there, and that was, we were talking about the electrical, right? We'd kind of gone through the bathrooms and the kitchen. Those were key electrical issues or areas, and including the laundry room. And then we said that one of the next biggest items to be mindful of is water, right? So where do we find water? Again, we find it in the laundry room. We find it in the bathrooms. We find it in the kitchen. And hopefully that's the only place we find it, and in the appropriate places, right? Common challenges. Open up the cabinets, okay? Look at the base. The base is a clear indicator if you've got one of the valves might be leaking, which they do, okay? They're not there forever, right? You might have the P-trap, right? It's that pipe that comes down, it does a loop, and then comes back up again, right? Comes up like this, and then goes out. Hence, like a P upside down, right? The letter P, that is, upside down, not the little round P. Anyway, so those tend to sometimes leak, right? Or you get the folks that say, my sink's not draining right, and they do something crazy to it, and it loosens up that fitting because it's many times it just slides up and down on the section of pipe that comes down from the drain and hooks into the P-trap. Sometimes if they're ramming a little device in there, they'll move that down and create a leak, and then they don't even know. And then, of course, because nobody puts anything underneath their sink, right? Wrong. They pile everything under there, including the kitchen sink, right? They'll put everything under the sink, and you can have a leak. And most people have no idea until one of two things happens. One, they start getting this funky smell. They're like, what the heck is that? Or they pull out, their spare toilet paper, and they're like, oh my gosh, this thing's like all wet. Why is this all wet? Or they move something, and they see water on in front of the the cabinet itself, or some other reason. But anyway, it's not until later that they find this, right? And then the whole point of this is you can see that bottom board is going to be a little ripply, it's going to be wavy, it's going to be discolored, it's going to have a stain, and that will be a key indicator that there was a leak or is a leak. All right. Then if you have a moisture detector, well, I shouldn't say most, all the inspectors do, whether they use infrared, whether they use a FLIR type, to check for temperature differential, or an actual prong where they stuff it in there. Prongs are probably the most effective. Again, there's a variety of different types. In fact, you can get one that works on your phone. It plugs into the little port in the back, and it does a little Bluetooth, and you can select, is it wood, is it sheetrock, what are you testing? And then you stuff that little prong in there, and what it does is it basically checks resistance, right? And if there's water in there, there's more resistance, right? Or less resistance, I should say, because water conducts electricity. So the greater the resistance, the less likelihood of water, right? Awesome. If you're an engineer, that is the basics. Don't kill me about that one. All right. Now, when you're under there, make sure that you're looking at all of the fittings, okay? You also want to be up top looking at your faucet fittings, and to make sure that the levers or the single lever, right, is operating smoothly, and then when you turn it off, it is off, right? And then the same thing with, your kitchen sink. Do not, however, turn off the washer faucet valves, especially if they're older. What ends up happening many times, if you turn those off, those seals have gotten really hard, okay? And they break, okay? It's just like your tire, they dry out, they wear out, right? So you want to be very careful with those. If you end up turning off valves underneath a sink and then you turn them back on again, and all of a sudden you get this little drip, okay? It doesn't matter how far you reef that thing down, okay? Because you will break it, it's not going to stop, okay? It will always leak. That little rubber washer, that little rubber gasket in there has failed, and you need to replace the valve itself. If during an inspection that happens, inspectors understand that occasionally it happens, or they won't mess with them because they don't want to create an issue. But the nice thing is they've always let a homeowner know. All right, moving on. Next item, which is kind of a key thing during the interior inspection, is the furnace. Make sure that as the inspector is looking at the furnace, the first thing you want to look for is this label. Okay, and on this label, it's going to say when it was last serviced. All right, that's really important because you need to have your furnace serviced really every other year at a minimum. Especially with a gas burning appliance, we want to make sure that heat exchanger, right, air comes through. Flame heats the pipes or the chamber, and we want to make sure that that's not getting cracked because metal, when it gets heated and cooled, expand, contract, expand, contract, it's going to crack. It's just a matter of time. Any furnace that is over the age of 15, just count your days. I'm not saying today it's going to fail. I'm not saying tomorrow, but it is inevitable. And they're really only good for 15 years. Beyond that, really, you need to budget for that replacement. And you want to make sure that when you buy a furnace, okay, yes, you can go with a contractor grade. Yes, you can go with a lower model, but you get what you pay for. Like many things in this world, you get what you pay for. So be mindful. It's better to spend a little more than you planned, a little less than you should have. All right? Okay. Same thing with your hot water tank. I recommend every 7 years you replace your hot water tank. At the very most, 10 years, all right? Because again, when they fail, they don't tell you. All you know is that you have water coming down, right? And it could be a little bit of water and it could be a lot of water, all right? It just depends on how catastrophic failure is. And you want to be mindful of this because I have never seen a failure, even in a garage, cost less than $2,500 of damage when they fail, okay? So it's better to be proactive. Okay, it's half that cost to have a new one. Now, a lot of people ask us, hey, George, tell me something. What the heck is that little valve for at the bottom of the tank? And I laugh and I'm like, dude, this is simple. That is so you can purge your tank and clean the silt out of the bottom of your tank every year. You should hook it, and it's designed, hook a garden hose up to it, and you let it flow for a little bit. You know, you can turn your breaker off at the time. No reason to hit water that, or heat water that you're kicking out, right? And flush the bottom of that tank. Let it flow out. Let it keep nice and clean. Because remember, you are drinking this. So if you like clean water and whatnot, clean all the gunk out and do it once a year. It's simple, super simple. If you have a question with it, call me. Or we've got a couple of plumbers that we'll hook you up with, and they'll walk you through that very simple process. All right. The other purpose is when it fails, turn off your water, turn it off at the meter if you need to, or your interior whole house water if you need to, and drain it. You can unhook it, get it replaced, and then put a new one back in and whatnot. And that's what that little thing is at the bottom. All right. So today we covered the basics of the electrical. Right? We talked about how to go from a zero to a hero in fixing the GFCI, so you can get your extra 3 minutes in the bathroom, or your only 3 minutes in the bathroom. And then, of course, we talked about plumbing leaks and water being our biggest issue. Okay. If you have any questions, absolutely post them. Post them afterwards, like a lot of people do, and we'll go ahead and we'll answer those questions. If you need a vendor, let me know, and we'll get you one of those vendors. And they're vetted, and so you know that they're going to be quality folks, because I always follow up and ask, how did things go, and make sure that you are 100% happy. All right, with that, we also have some great open houses today, so if you haven't been out there, definitely get out. If you are a hobbyist, if you're somebody who wants a man cave with 400 amp power service, detached garage so that the people inside can't hear you, out in Woodinville, absolutely, you've got to get out there. Give me a jingle back, or ping us here, and we'll let you know that it's out in Woodinville. It's 764.95. Fabulous house. It's 2660 square feet, and that's a great house. Absolutely fabulous. Anyway, so I was pinged about a question next week. Yes, so next week we're actually going to be talking a little bit about interest rates. Hoping to get Dan Golden in here. With Cornerstone Mortgage. Yes, he made his official change, and from Home Street, which is awesome sauce, because he has better and more programs for you guys. He's going to talk about how our interest rates have been going down, which is absolutely amazing. Here's an example. This is why you want to tune in next week, all right? So if you bought a $400,000 house 6 months ago, all right, and you're going to buy that same house today, okay, you can actually pay 8.2% more for that house, right? Or $435,000 for that same house and have the same payment. Same goes that today you can buy 8.2% more home today than you could 6 months ago. That's how much the rates have come down. They're going to continue to stay down. They're going to ride that out probably through Q3, Q4 of this year. The feds are talking about, kind of keeping the course for right now, especially we got an election year coming up. And so hopefully next week, Dan won't chicken out on me. He'll come in. He's probably watching this. Hey, Dan. And we'll talk a little bit about that and some of the things to be wary of as you're looking at getting financed, as far as prepaids, these really online type of mortgages and rates that they're offering, and cautions to keep in mind. Anyway, that's it. My name is George Moorhead with Bentley Properties. It was fun chatting with you again. Let me know if there's anything else that you need. In the meantime, have an absolutely beautiful sunny day. Take care. Thanks.